So this is Camp Creator.
Welcome back to another behind-the-scenes interview about the making of Camp Creator. My name is Joe Kendrick. In 2024, I wrote a musical called Camp Creator, and it was performed as a stage reading at the Homewood Theater this past December. And today we are joined by Bailey Glasgow, who is a part of the cast for the Camp Creator stage reading. Could you introduce yourself and your background?
Yeah, so I'm Bailey Glasgow. I have been doing theater since I was 3. I have a BFA in musical theater from the University of Montevallo with specific concentrations on arts administration and performance, kind of focusing on both the stage aspect and kind of more the business and educational aspect of theater.
Just keep in mind that for these kids who want to be successful, that doesn't necessarily mean they get to be artsy.
I'll keep that in mind.
I know you've been involved with the Homewood Theater. I'd love to hear about how you got involved and how Camp Creator got on your radar as well.
Yeah, so my connection to Homewood started all the way back because it starts with Mason Elizabeth before it ever started with Lexi. And so I had met Mason Elizabeth doing a camp, I want to say 4 years ago now, which feels crazy. And then she and I wound up meeting again back at Birmingham Children's Theater. And we were like, oh my God, it's so good to see you. And through the process of auditioning, we worked on multiple shows together, but we ended up doing a couple of 2 different shows where it was just us 2 and going on tour with our stage manager. And so the last show that we ended up doing together, it was called Teddy Bear's Picnic, and I don't think either of us had gotten called back for anything at Birmingham Children's. So Mason was like, hey, Lexi's doing this thing over at Homewood. I know she's looking for extra people to help. Why don't you come help with the production she's working on? And so I ended up messaging Lexi and was like, hey, I would love to be your assistant stage manager. And she was like, great, let's get you signed on. And so a couple weeks later, sometime in December, she messages me and she's like, hey, so I know you've never stage managed before. Would you want to be our full stage manager since I can't find an actual stage manager? And I was like, hey, girl, I have never stage managed outside of like a college class. Not even like in college did I stage manage a production on my own. I have never done this full blown. Because at that point, I hadn't pulled any of my arts admin stuff in. It was mostly just performance-based stuff. And so Lexi really gave me the opportunity to work more on my arts admin stuff through stage managing. And that's kind of how I started getting more integrated into the kids programming, stage managing overall. I got more integrated into some of like the more teaching aspects, which I had kind of done previously with some other programs. But Lexi really gave me a lot of room to kind of grow and soar as a person. And that's just, and I've told her this before, I can't ever tell Lexi how grateful I am for her giving me that opportunity and having the faith she had in me. Because without that, I don't think I would be the person I am today.
I feel the same way. I know I think I said this in rehearsal. Lexi is, not only do we go, back as far as middle school, the first gig that I ever played as a pianist for another singer was playing with Lexi. And so it all starts there. And now I'm gigging in Nashville, and it all started with just like that first gig of someone else, like being like, oh, like not only are you a good player, but you're worth collaborating with. And it means a lot. It means a lot, even little shows and little moments that, might feel humble looking back, but it's just like any little thing can go a long way and just give you the confidence. And yeah, just, and especially anyone that makes you feel seen for your talent when maybe you haven't had opportunities before.
Lexi's really good about making people feel seen and giving them the grace and space to grow.
Absolutely. And I mean, and even like here with Camp Creator, like I had never had any of my work performed on a stage before this stage reading. This is my first time having anything I'd written performed live. I've written short films that people have acted in, like I've seen my work performed, I guess to that degree. But like, yeah, this was a totally unique experience, and musical theater is something still very new to me as a writer, and her just being able to be willing to reach out and say, oh, I see you're working on a musical. let's give it a first home. And that's just that it's a risk. And I'm glad she took it.
I'm glad she did too, because me personally, the show has had a bigger impact on me than what I originally expected. And I think that Lexi is a good way of finding those pieces and connecting those people, because kind of ever since like we first read through it, and even just the first time hearing the music, all of it, it really, for me, it connected to, I feel like it sounds corny to say it connected to my spirit, but it really connected to my spirit and my person, my soul, whatever corny nonsense you want to throw in there. But it deeply resonated with me in a way that I haven't really found with any other piece so far.
That means a lot. I was so excited just to be able to have the chance to share it. And I mean, it really impressed me. I mean, all the actors, I feel like, for our cast, like, they understood the material, they understood their part. And I was really glad when we started talking about our characters on day one of rehearsal. I just felt like everyone, you know, they understood exactly what it was about, and it meant something to them, whether they saw themselves in the characters or in someone else's character, right? And just like I'm really glad that I think people have been able to project themselves onto the show, because I mean, I project myself onto all the characters as well. I mean, every single one of them, maybe even ones that I don't want to. It's fiction, but it's autobiographical all at the same time, and I think that's how all writing is. And I'm so thankful to now have it, like, be able to share it with more people.
I do think that authenticity of it is why it does resonate with so many people, though, because and there's so many layers to the story itself that I think so many people can find connection to. But I think because it is so focused on authenticity and individuality, that it makes people feel like they feel heard and goes, yes, that's me. Someone gets it. And it's that connection. And I really love too how it kind of talks almost about this theme of community, because I feel like in such an age where everything is just so short form media, it's so instant gratification, we need that kind of sense of connection, even if it's just through experience it as an audience member or otherwise.
I mean, Camp Creator, like, it can get meta pretty quick, right? Because it's an artwork, but it's also a story about making artwork. And that's I totally agree that I think there's if there's a message also in the story, right, it is about, like, expressing yourself honestly, genuinely. And right, the enemy of it, in a way, the antagonist is Walt, right, who's the embodiment of that short form content, right, in that kind of like, well, let's just try to be successful, and it doesn't matter what's authentic, it doesn't matter what you're saying. And that's the lesson he has to learn, right, is getting over that. Like, it's you can't commodify yourself, right? I mean, you can, but it breaks your soul, right? And that's something that Melody just, like, she doesn't have that in her, right? Like, her story is all about like just what's in her is just she has something to say, and there, like, you can't talk her out of that.
It's just that I think of all the camps I've done before, all the places that I've searched for a creative mentor. Some of them did not turn out as good as how they'd sound. They weren't what I needed, somehow they let me down.
I'm such a type A analytical kind of person. It really gives opportunity, especially because you've kind of talked about wanting this show to be something that kids can use and that they can learn from. And I think that, especially going into an educational aspect, there's so much nuance and layering to the story you've already crafted that allows for so much analytical breakdown and media literacy to be worked through with people on every level, not just with the kids, really, if you want to get down to it. It's so ripe for analysis and picking apart. And I say picking apart, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but it really reminds me of some of those more classic literary pieces, things like Ulysses, where it tells multiple different stories, and it's kind of, analysis of what does each story mean and how do they tie together. It's so interesting. And that's part of why I loved it so much as such an analytical person, not just the deep emotional impact, but as someone who cares about kind of understanding literary pieces more. It just, you really created such an interesting world and such interesting characters that kind of goes, how can we pick this apart and where's the meaning in it? And because I'm such a puzzle person, so.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, and it's meant a lot in these interviews. Like I've been able to kind of pick up on it's like the show, and it's like it gives people a language as well for kind of and this is, it's not always this simple, but there's people who think about art in different ways, and you can kind of think about wherever you're at in your own journey, and you can kind of analyze like, oh, is this person more of like an Audrey? Are they more of a Walt? Are they more of a Melody? And like embedded in these characters is a language for kind of being able to discuss an artist's relationship with what they're expressing. And I think there's a lot of things that I feel very humble and naive about with this show. I appreciate I guess you trying to trim, to give it its flowers. Something I guess I feel insecure about is like, well, I feel like I suffer from same voice syndrome. I feel like my dialogue just sounds like I'm talking. But if there's something I'm proud of, it is that like, well, all these characters came from, like, I want to make sure they all have a unique viewpoint, right? And something I think is carried through at the very least is each character has that viewpoint, and it strengthens the themes of the show. Maybe the dialogue could be like, well, could they all have made the same joke, and does that maybe create a sameness? I don't know. I think that's something I can do better. But I am proud of I think Camp Creator is definitely saying something, and I think it's obvious too. I think that anyone who watches the show will who's thinking about it, I really hope that it gets them to think about it, because I think that something we have to change in society is rethinking, or for a lot of people, I think they have to rethink the way they think about art. And I mean, don't get me started on AI and all the issues that introduces, but it's like there is such a necessity for more and more people to have to reconcile that like art is valuable because it says something, because it means something, because someone's saying it. And I hope that this show can maybe help demonstrate that.
That's such another rabbit hole we could get down. And that's, once again, I feel like I'm going to say this 5,000 times. That's another reason why I love this show, because it opens up so much conversation. I could get down so many rabbit holes with this. It's so good. It's really good.
You're right that like, well, part of the show is the director has these money problems, and he's trying to figure out how to balance, like, well, he wants the camp to be a place that serves a function that empowers kids, but he also wants to, make sure that his books are balanced, right? And does that mean catering to, like these people that are interested in donating want to make sure it can benefit the industry, right? You have these producers coming in that are like, we want to benefit our labels, right? The creatives, the arts are not just for your soul, but it's for fueling the industry. And it's like, that feels conniving, and it can feel even cartoonish. But I mean, I'll tell you, living here in Nashville, there's plenty of people in the music industry that are very aware and will talk about it as if it's a business, right? And a lot of them still care about the art, but there's so much just commodification. And I think for a lot of people that I know, and like, I think there's an active question about, well, how much can you allow yourself to sell out and still keep your soul?
That's one of the big soapboxes for me as an artist, especially with theater. I feel like there's so many aspects where I struggle, especially when you're working with students who they're finding their voice and they're trying to get into theater, and being such a person of this mindset that it feels like a lot of art, not just theater, but that's kind of my platform, but it feels like there's so much art nowadays where it's become so capitalistic that we've lost the actual passion for the art itself, because we've commodified. It's turned from art into business. And there is certain aspects where, yes, the business is important to it, but it feels like that's what's becoming more important, is the commodification and the capitalistic nature of it. And that's such a soapbox to me that, like, one of my coworkers at one of my jobs, he was like, you seem like such a chill person, you don't have any opinions. And I was like, let me tell you, I have so many, and a lot of them are around like theater and art and what we can do better.
Listening to that, I think of the parallels of Mr. Zims coming in and talking to Walt about the song that he's working on with Melody. And Walt is, he's turned Melody's passionate ballad into this 4-chord pop song that, you know, is generic. And right, Mr. Zims is there just going, well, you know, it's okay that it's generic. You know, it's made for the radio. People want to just hear the same old stuff. Like, that's okay. That's great. Keep up the good work. And Walt is now suddenly frustrated that, like, well, he thought that that's what was all right, but then he realized how disappointing it is for someone who has to compromise what they have to express in order to achieve something vanilla.
The song is fine. In fact, it's better than fine. It's got that simple rhythm that makes it easy for people to dance to. And the chords are easy to play.
But that might have to change. I'm here because I want to rework it. I want Melody to be happy with it.
What kind of changes did you have in mind?
A complete rework of the instrumentation. I want to record new piano parts and reprogram the rest.
It's the night before the showcase. Be realistic. Besides, the song is perfect the way it is. It's already radio ready. Don't mess that up.
I've already messed up. Look, I don't know whether the song will be radio ready after tonight or not, but I do know that I want to make something that Melody's happy with. She's the artist.
Artists can be wrong, Walt. They're not always thinking about the big picture, about who's actually going to buy the record.
I don't care. She has something to express, and with the way that the song is now, she doesn't feel like she's expressing it. I think I know what's missing, so at least let me try.
All right. Just this once?
But when I was writing it, I had people in mind as I was kind of writing it, but I was like, this is coming from me, right? It's like, is someone going to be able to sing this and mean it? Is someone else going to be able to sing it and mean it? And for all these characters, it's been such a joy just to see, the stage reading cast like embody these characters, and it's not just a performance, but they can mean it.
I mean, I can't tell you how many times the two songs that I think about more than anything are "What Will It Take" and "Dreams of Silver Screens." I think about those two songs so much, especially "What Will It Take." It lives in my bones, honestly, because like the first time I heard her sing that, I was like, uh-oh, this is amazing for multiple reasons.
I've got a spark that's deep down inside that I'm trying to make into a fire. I'm jealous of all of the stars, 'cause they all shine so much brighter.
And I was honestly level with you. I was trying not to cry during our first full read and sing through of it. Even as even when we were struggling at parts, but especially with "What Will It Take?" It felt, one, she's amazing, beautiful, wonderful voice, amazing characterization. You have great work that you created, obviously. But just sitting there with not just that, but the deep emotional impact that it was hitting me with, I was just sitting there don't cry right now. You're a professional. Suck it in.
Well, I had definitely a lot of moments during rehearsals. It was so special. It was so special to hear the show come alive, and that's something that was in the moment. It was overshadowed by the pressure of, I need to just pay attention to, are people getting their entrances? Do I need to make notes of, we need to revisit this song tomorrow? And I mean that's part of any kind of directorial position, is you want to be able to just give yourself to the show and just let it take over. And sometimes it can, but sometimes it's well, that's if there's a tragedy of leadership, right? Is that well, you also have to worry about the logistics, and it's that can sometimes overpower that experience, which is why I wanted to perform in the show as well, because I felt that if I was directing or just watching the show when it happened from off stage, I just felt I would be so overwhelmed by wanting to take notes, or I don't know, I would just get caught up in all of those logistical feelings. And I just felt well, if I was a performer, I'm going to be more worried just about singing my own part, and I'm not going to be critical of anyone else as much. So I just need to and that got me on stage, and I was just in between my songs, I can just sit back, watch y'all, enjoy the show. And that was it. I felt that Saturday when we actually had our performance was kind of my first time where I was I can just sit back, enjoy. I trusted y'all to put it all together, and now I can just relax.
I was so nervous when we finally got to the day of the performance too, because like the whole week I was like, I hope I'm getting my notes right. I don't feel like I'm getting this right. And I was like, remember I was like sitting in my apartment, like just listening over and over and over again, going, do I know this as well as I think I do? I was shaking in my boots because I'm not gonna lie, I was like, I care about this so much. I don't want to disappoint Joe.